Well, this one I think was a real watershed for the wrong reasons, really. But it felt like a moment, like a positive moment in the run up to it. It's Scunthorpe in 2009, the one where we could have got into the playoffs if we'd have won. And this is a game when I talk about belief, and I'm going to contradict myself here. I genuinely thought we were going to win because we had a good side that year. If you look at the likes of Anthony Kay and Ryan Shotton, these were good players. That we had, and we just felt strong. And I just thought we were going to win, and I thought we were going to get in the playoffs, and I thought we were going to win the playoffs. Because when we talk about that game, it just feels like there's a natural assumption that if we'd have got into the playoffs, we'd have won and we'd have gone through. Even though, everyone remembers the Hartlepool game a couple of seasons earlier. But so it was such a good. I mean, again, a really sunny day. I remember driving over to Scunthorpe. We got there and everyone was in fancy dress. I wasn't, but everyone was in fancy dress. I think Andy Doyle was dressed as a wizard. I remember having our photo taken with a guy in a gorilla suit, to this day I have no idea who it was. But we were all in the pub next to the ground. It was just an amazing atmosphere, fancy dress, everyone singing, everyone dancing, akin to like a Wembley trip. I mean, the atmosphere was something else. And we went into the away stand singing non-stop all game. I don't even know, was it an early goal that Curran scored? I can't even remember when it was. It felt like there was a long way to go anyway, but it never felt, I honestly didn't think we were going to lose it throughout the whole game. I didn't think we were going to lose it. I just had this confidence because maybe it was because of the atmosphere. Maybe it was because we'd scored and we were a good side that year. We were a strong side. And then I think, was it Eds got sent off just before their goal, which was down the far end. And it was, I think somebody on your podcast mentioned that sound of an away goal going in when you're quiet and there's that split second of silence and then it erupts. And when it's the far end, you can't quite tell whether it's gone in. You don't know who it's gone off. I think it was just a bullet header, wasn't it, in the end? But and the deflation after that was something else. It's like, you can often take positives out of you almost got there. But I think we all believed that we were going to win that game and we were all going to do it. And then that was a watershed. I think you can trace our decline back to that game. I think that's when it all started, because Ronnie needed another season. He needed some more money. We could have built on it. We needed to keep players. We needed to keep the likes of Anthony Kay. I know Ryan Shotton was only on loan, but what a player he was. We had a strong spine. We had Ian Moore. We had Greenacre. I think, did Greenacre leave that season? I'm not sure, but it felt like the squad fell apart. And then Ronnie even signed a player, didn't he? He signed Mark Hallett that close season and then was sacked the next day or something stupid. And Hallett never played for us. It just felt like a real moment, that game. It's like the start of the day, it felt like a moment for positive reasons. And at the end of the day, looking back now, it was a moment. It was the start of our decline, I would say.
It certainly was. I mean, there's so much that happens. So firstly, Lorraine Rogers steps down as Tranmere chairman in the March of that year. And if I remember rightly, she was really unhappy at the way the Steve Davis transfer had been handled when he left Tranmere for Derby for the tribunal. So Peter Johnson comes back in, and Peter obviously then decides that a change of manager is needed. And he's got John Barnes, his agent, in his ear. And John Barnes whispers lots of sweet nothings to him and comes in and takes over as manager, and the rest is history. But if you look at the Tranmere team that started that day at Scunthorpe, Danny Coyne was in goal. He left. The back four, all four of them had gone by the start of the next season. Chorley and Kay leave after their contracts expire. Ryan Shotton, as you say, was on loan. And Andy Taylor gets sold midway through the summer and moves on to Sheffield United. Then you look through the rest of the team. Steve Jennings leaves. Charlie Barnett stays, but is very much a bit part player. Gareth Eds stays. Idrissa Sonko, I think, goes, and I'm just fact-checking myself here. Indeed, he does. Idrissa Sonko goes. And you've got Craig Curran and Ian Thomas Moore, who both stay, but Ian Moore is somewhat annoyed by what's happened to his dad, and maybe that affects his performances over the next season as well. But that team really does get eaten into. And if you look at the side that was on the bench, John Achterberg goes to Liverpool at the end of this season. Ashton Taylor makes his debut as a sub off the bench and is then basically a ever present for the next 5 years. Aaron Cresswell comes on. You've got a young lad from, I think it was Leicester on loan, Robbie Burns, who goes, and Terry Gornell. But the heart of that team gets absolutely ripped out. Can you name the person who's very much at the forefront of our mind who was on the Scunthorpe bench that day?
Oh, it must have been Andy Crosby, was it?
It was indeed Andy
Yeah.
Crosby.
Well, so Adkins was managing then. He'd have been, I think, wouldn't he? Yeah,
he was. Yeah. But you're so right about this day. Like, I look back on it really fondly. A picture of it came up on my Facebook yesterday, actually, because it was my best mate's birthday, and we were both there. And and so Facebook had thrown together a photo of me and him and was like, celebrate by sending this photo. And I'm like, I look a lot younger and a lot thinner, so I'm not sure that I want to. But you talk about fancy dress. I mean, it's not something I ever do. But I had blue and white hair. I would obviously sprayed my hair for the occasion, which is something that I would never do. And I just remember the atmosphere being absolutely phenomenal. And even leaving the ground, I was absolutely gutted that they hadn't won and therefore got a playoff place. But I just remember thinking, it's okay. They'll do it next year. This is a really good team. But then what happens, and they've never been close to that again.
No, I think that was it. I mean, I can't remember whether I thought we'd do it again next year. I knew we needed to keep hold of some players, and I think there was talk that Kay was going already anyway, and Jennings was going. But I think the budget was being cut every season at that point, wasn't it? And I would say that was probably the last season we had a half decent budget. I remember when Little was here one year, and we got after the playoffs in Hartlepool, I think his budget was slashed, and we nearly got relegated. So it seems to be the Tranmere way that you do well and then they cut the budget. Which doesn't make sense. But yeah, it was the Ronnie sacking, and clearly, you know, that summer just sort of went downhill, didn't it? And the start of that next season was just a shambles. When you consider how we'd ended the previous, it's hard to remember that they were literally a couple of months apart, those 2 seasons. But yeah, it was one of those days. It was a great day, and like you say, I look back on it fondly as a day and as an atmosphere, and but I had to drive down to London straight after the game, which was the longest journey of my life. But it was heartbreaking really that day in the end, because I never thought we were going to I just thought we were going to do it all day.